Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. Yes, indeed, I am Richard Dugan, and today we are going to be talking about a particular aspect of energy work, if you will. I became associated with, or at least informed or educated about, when I read at the age of 17, my metaphysical primer, Autobiography of a Yogi. And we're going to be talking about Kundalini energy, light on Kundalini, and your lifestyle guide to yoga and awakening. And my guest is, and I hope I have the pronunciation correct, Karuna.
Oh, it couldn't be better.
And she is a spiritual teacher as well as teaching yoga. And we're going to talk about the work that she does as well as light on Kundalini, which actually, by utilizing that energy, can bring light into your life and your body, all of your bodies, body, mind, soul, and spirit, and all of the various aspects thereof. It's great to have you with us to talk about this. And I guess we will start from the beginning. What is Kundalini energy? What is it and where does it come from?
So thank you for having me. And I'm so happy to be with all your guests as well. And I say hello from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. So I live
Oh,
at 8,500 feet and I walk in the forest almost every day. And so it was necessary for me to awaken my kunda. So kunda is the pent up energy at the base of your spine. So if you like your tailbone,
mhm.
and once that shifts its awakening inside of you, it gives you this really, let us say, good sense of humor. Also, a sense of well-being, a sense of intuitive contact, if you like, where the stressors are alleviated from, the doer and by thy will be done sort of thing. So that's all just coming to you fresh. This is not, I don't take notes. I don't have a script. I'm with all of you and your energy. So I just, that's what I feel like we want to share
Oh,
with.
absolutely. Absolutely. I myself not only am familiar, I did not go through the practices through, in this case, Self-Realization Fellowship in Phoenix when I first read the book, and of course the years subsequent. But I did become a Reiki master along with my present wife. And the interesting is that the energy itself, we become a conduit, regardless of whether it's Kundalini, whether it's Reiki, whether it's whatever it is. And all we want to do is be that conduit
Mm,
to share it with
mm.
others, to share it so that others can not only experience that, but also that will help to transform their lives. So we're really talking about a transformational process, are we not?
Absolutely, we are. We're talking about allowing ourselves to be transformed and be available for all beings to awaken and have an experience of joy and love and compassion in their lives instead of the old way, the old Piscean way of, and that doesn't have anything to do with the sign of Pisces.
Mhm.
That's the old, Kali Yuga, and that's crumbling now, and we're into the Sati Yuga, the Truth Yuga, and that is about the awareness of love and the awareness of uh, discipline to achieve a better self, a better intuitive self. When you say Reiki, the Reiki is the hands and not even touching the body. It's the energy of the tattvas, the earth, wind, fire, water, ether. And it's like the aura. It's 9 feet above us, below us, from side to side, in front of us and back of us. And we just live in that consciousness. Yet we understand the subconscious patterns that have been brought through to us to heal. The 7 generations before us, the 7 generations to come will thrive on your work as a Reiki master, as a Kundalini yoga offering, as whatever you want to call it, as long as it's connected to on a soul level to each and every one of us, whether we know it or not, we're totally all connected.
I think that's something that is becoming more and more apparent to, I will say, the general public,
Mm,
especially as we move through not only some of the natural disasters, as we call them, the Mother Earth's changes,
yeah.
uh, but also we're beginning to realize how connected we are through some of the man-made challenges.
Mm,
And
mm.
we could go through and name whatever we want, whether it be an election or assassination or a conflict that's going on somewhere else in the world. My wife happens to be very empathic, and every once in a while, she'll all of a sudden exhibit just she just loses what seems like her health just goes right down the tubes for a period of time. She doesn't know what it is, and then one day we were actually she was going through this, and we were watching a movie,
Mm.
and the movie was over, so we went over to the live feed of the particular channel, and boom, there was the breaking news, and immediately she shifted. She was fine
Mm, mm.
because she knew, oh, that's the reason why I was feeling the way I was. Now, the biggest challenge that she has had, maybe you can assist in this process for many who have this experience, is how does one protect oneself from the onslaught of those kinds of energies coming in when one is an empath? I mean, we want to be empathetic and so forth, but at the same time, if it debilitates us, it's okay, great. This is not mine, but where's it coming from, and how do I how do I put up the shields, so to speak, so it doesn't debilitate me?
And not only debilitate you, but debilitate the gift you're giving somebody as an empath, the compassion you're leaning into. You don't want to pull that back because you're afraid that, you're going to be affected by that that pain. And yet the consciousness you're talking about is prevalent in putting a protective mantra around you. I use the Ad Gadename, Jugad Gadename, Sat Gadename, Siddhi Gudidev Ename every morning in my sadhana practice. I get up before the sun rises so I can be in the frequency of my purity and grace and look at all my god dang demons, you know? Yeah, and line them all up and go, oh, hi. Okay, but you're not going to trip me today. So I
Yes.
recognize you, I love you, but you're not going to. And so we have a way to protect ourselves, Dr. D. We have a way to be more empathetic. We have a way to share empathy with the whole planet. When you see people suffering, you offer them from a distance the practice, the protection, the mantra, if you like. You play music that comes from the heart that will stimulate on a cellular system, in a cellular system, and reorganize the brain so you're not attached ever to the outcome. You are not the doer, so you don't take responsibility. You offer what you can without any kind of ID or personality, and you pray a lot that what you're doing is aligned with yourself and that person or that place or that business, or wherever you're going in a retreat situation. You don't know the people that are coming to my retreat this Saturday. I don't, I've never met them, so how dare I form a plan around what I offer them? I have to be in the essence of this person. And so that means I have to come very pure. And I pull back the empathetic rein here and I say, let me just show up and be available and have no. You talked about the lightning bolt effect of how an election, for example, will just put so much fear in our and on us on a cellular level. And our fear becomes manifested in such a stressor that we get sick. We get a cold. We're grieving. We get a cold. Our lungs take that on. We eat too many sugars. We eat too much dairy. That feeds the cold, and you get sicker and sicker. So I think healing grief is one of the things I talk about in my book. I know that healing grief, grief is in our psoas, is sitting in our hips. And so there's exercises that I can give to people and do give to people often on how to open that heart chakra and put the protection around you so that you can be the healer. Every single one of us are the healers.
That is absolutely true. And what's interesting is, and I understand what you mean by that, but at the same time, to clarify for those listening,
Yeah.
we, as you described, we are all healers. I, in sending that Reiki energy out, I
Mhm.
didn't heal that person. That person chose to use that energy for the purposes of healing themselves. And I've
Absolutely.
had this conversation before too about the definition of healing because,
Yeah.
and I use this example all the time. My uncle, my father's brother, had been diagnosed with cancer, and we had just finished our training, and we wanted to send him an absentee healing. So my mother gave us a photograph, took it home, an absentee healing. Following my uncle's funeral, my mother told us what had happened. That after we had sent that energy a day or two later, he got very angry and threw his medications across the room, got
Mhm.
into his wheelchair, wheeled across the compound where his family lived on this ranch, went into his son's home, and I guess they had a time of closure and all of that. And then shortly thereafter, he passed.
Mhm.
So the question then came up for me. I said, well, wait a minute. I understand that it's not my intention. I understand that. But we were sending it for the purposes of quote unquote healing. So
Mhm.
do we have to redefine what healing is? Because he died. He wasn't healed of the cancer. And then, of course, obviously it dawned on me, well, wait a minute, that's not my choice. He chose to use that energy in order to be able to obviously express the anger, throw the medication, wheel across the compound, spend time with his son. And for him, that was healing, that process. And so I find that we, it's almost along those lines of how, we make plans and God laughs, in a manner of speaking. And that's the reason why we don't put our intention on that energy as Reiki masters. There are other things that can be used, other modalities as well. But that's the gist that I have. So it seems to me that we have to recognize, each one of us, our own self-healing capacity, capabilities, as well as opportunities. We need to open up to those, don't we? And this Kundalini energy, as you talk about in your book, Light on Kundalini, that's what it's there for.
It siphons out the idea that we're putting any kind of our stuff into the healing. We stand out of the way and allow the energy. It's that we have a practice called Satnam Rasayan in Kundalini Yoga, where we basically just touch a part of the other being laying down. One's sitting up, one's laying down. And that is not you healing somebody. That is you healing you by touching somebody. You healed you by giving your uncle or whoever this person was. It's allowance to act out whatever he needed to do to ascend in peace. He got rid of so much anger and so much destruction that he never ever wanted to leave behind for anyone here. And he took care of his son. He checked all the boxes and he left. And you helped him to do that. And the energy of Kundalini Yoga, when it's released, the Kunda, goes up through the chakras. There's not only 7 chakras, there's 14 plus more chakras. And they're in the palms of your hands when you're doing Reiki or you're healing or you're massaging or you're doing anything. It is really up to us to get out of the way. It's for no one to say it was your medicine that helped him to ascend or not, or heal or not. You willingly do the best you can to help anybody push a cart a little bit easier, right? So that's what we're doing here. And yes, the energy of light, you're talking about light, is, transparency. It means living in a very clean environment where there is no thing wrong or right. There's no duality. It's all non-dual. And it's a miracle that we can even connect today, you and I. It's a miracle.
It really is.
Life is a miracle. And we don't take any of that for granted at all, especially because we have gone through tragedies and ups and downs, all of us.
Yeah, it's it is quite remarkable. One of my questions that I would ask at the end of every program since 2007, one of the questions was, how powerful are we, to the guest? And over the course of time, the answer was always pretty much the same by each person, and they're infinitely powerful. We have no clue. You think that for example, the atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were powerful. That ain't nothing by comparison to the power that we hold within ourselves, that we can put out there to do the things that we want to do, to live out our life's purpose, if you will. And we encourage people to do that. Light on Kundalini, your lifestyle guide to yoga and awakening, by Karuna, my guest here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and it is such a pleasure to have this spiritual teacher and yogi with us, Karuna, here on Tell Me Your Story. And by the way, the website, folks, is quite easily, it is lightonkundalini.com. We'll be linked to that website as well. Um, when were you introduced to this energy, this Kundalini, the practice, and so forth?
It has only been about a decade now. Really, on it. No, it's been about 14 years, but I had a yoga practice, early on. I think I had my first encounter with yoga, 4 decades ago. So I've been graduating my practice into Kundalini. And when I met the Kundalini yogic practice, through the dream state, through my awakened state, I started living it. It started living me, in me, actually. It met me where I live now. And through the earlier stages, 20s, 30s, 40s, you get these glimpses of where your yogic practice can take you, and you meet, I loved Yogananda. I have so many connections with Reiki and masters in London and the old Reiki. And so I practice all different kinds of modalities of healing. And, I tend to lean into, I have a spiritual name, a Lakota name, Chante Itonwa Wagalakawi, woman that speaks with her heart. I'm in Varanasi in 2004, India, and they give me the name of Karuna, which means compassion. And the knowingness about what Kundalini Yoga told me was I have to live compassion.
Mm.
I have to revise my whole, I was close, but I had no idea what that divine, feminine, fierce compassion really looks like through, through the idea of mercifulness, just really coming into fearlessness, coming into humility, coming into a non-egoic practice where it just makes you keep your arms up for maybe 11 minutes. And how do you learn to do that? Definitely only the dungeon of the rib cage can take you there. By holding your arms up, you connect with the ribs, which connects to the lungs, which connects to the inner organs. And this yogic practice actually changes your whole body. You don't do that. It's not a fitness, it's not an athleticism, if you like. It's a breath practice, it's a prana practice, and it's a neutral practice. So we go through the negative mind at the second chakra, the positive mind at the third chakra. And those chakras, they're like bad kids in the sandbox. They keep throwing sand at each other and giggling and running and chasing and instigating. And until you pull it up to the heart, the neutral mind, do you find the maturity? So we keep window shopping, right? For the right practice. And when I met Kundalini Yoga, I was ready. And it's not to say that somebody that's 17 years old isn't ready for it. Everyone's ready when it meets you. I just met it after a long-winded yogic practice. And the thing I loved about Kundalini Yoga when I met it, where I was at, was it only takes 6 months to master. Doesn't mean you can teach it in 6 months. It means you get an idea of, wow, I have a different appetite. My body's changing. My health is changing. I'm understanding when I get, sick, that it's on my side, the sickness. I need to rest. I need to lay out. And so it changes the frequency and the vibration of how you live your life.
Mm.
Not so much, you know, activity at night, more getting to bed, with chamomile tea and a bath, and resting, and then getting up earlier and earlier to have your practice. And eventually the practice just wakes you up. There's no alarm that goes off anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It just is.
just is. It's easier, folks. It's easier out there in this world to understand that, sure, the dynamics are changing from Piscean to Aquarian. And, it's like Dr. D, when you get to the temple, you go, you almost get there, you almost get right there, and you
Mhm.
say, good enough, and you drop out. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, keep going.
It makes me think of there was this thought I had many years ago. I was working in Phoenix for a Christian station and thinking about the connection to God, the
Yeah.
Creator, if you will. And this was before I realized that I've always had the connection. It's not something that I have to reach for. It's always been there. And I was thinking, okay, well, the way that they describe it here, um, I have this distance, and over time, I can bridge it. I can go halfway, and
Mhm.
and from there, I go halfway. Distance gets shorter, and then I go halfway again, and I go halfway and halfway and halfway and halfway and halfway, and I keep doing that, but I never really get there. And
Mhm.
it's like, oh, that's unsatisfying,
Mhm.
you know?
But you're going towards it.
Sure, but there
It's
is no halfway. It isn't about halfway.
yeah,
It's that was the thing that I finally realized many years ago is there is no halfway. I'm
yeah.
there. I'm there now.
Yes, and you can't measure it, right?
Exactly. That's it right there. Yeah. Hmm.
You can't measure it. I'll read to you the quote on the back of my book. It's
Please.
by a very lovely man called, his name is Jeff Genung. He's the co-founder of Contemplative Life, and he works for Social World. He says yoga is a vast topic that ultimately becomes a way of life. The
Mhm.
journey from theory to practice, from knowledge to understanding, comes through lived experience, daily practice, and grace. Light on Kundalini is a living testimony of Karuna's yogic journey. It also serves as a well articulated manual of practices led by a master practitioner. Karuna intimately shares her yogic journey as a testimony to the transformational power of Kundalini yoga and as an invitation to others who wish to be transformed in love. Satnam. And that, is to, and I also put on the back here in big bold, yoga saved my life. May it help you to live yours and to live your life. Your life. I can tell you a beautiful story also about my Uncle Joe, and he's got a, life-size portrait of him at Holy Family in Westminster, Colorado. And he was a historian, and he used to make me laugh, and he'd finish my sentences all the time and, just giggle with me. He was the one who made me laugh the most and with me. And because we just take it a little bit lighter, just take it a little less heavy and make, and as the observer, look at your life as an observer and see the miracle, as we said earlier. See that every step of the way is conscious and it's focused. And Thich Nhat Hanh talks about this in Plum Village. We have to learn to live together,
Mhm.
ashram style sometimes even,
Right.
because we need each other. And that's the biggest test to our patience and our tolerance is to live, amongst each other and get along.
Yeah. I mean, without going into the long analogy, you're absolutely right. And we have that connection. Now, I understand there are those who do want to live their solitary lives. There are, monks and so forth. They'll go into a cloister or what have you. They'll go into a temple or what have you and live that particular life. I actually feel that those kinds of establishments, shall we say, are essential. They're sort of they're constantly praying, and they're sort of they're like the glue that's sort of holding everything together. If they stopped praying, the life would be even more challenging than it already is. So I'm grateful and thankful that they are in those places, sharing their life and that energy with all of us around the world through these different, and it's all different philosophies, you know. Obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is in Tibet. Obviously,
Yes, I was
and
there with you right now. Yeah,
yeah,
just there.
and,
And look what happened. Look what the Dalai Lama went through.
mm, hmm
All
yeah,
the, all the tragedies.
yeah,
All those monks you're talking about too, as well, praying, doing good things.
yeah,
Yet, we get invaded.
yeah,
The Sikhs got invaded by the Mughals. In 1984, the Golden Temple.
yeah,
It's a tragedy. Life out there is, going to teach us something about
yeah.
how to live in it.
And there's another aspect of it too that I think we don't like to think in this context. However, the reality is, um, and I guess to quote from this I guess it was a poem that was released out over the radio waves back in I think it was in the 70s, called Desiderata. Life is unfolding as it should. It doesn't matter whether you like it or don't like it, that Israel and the Palestinians are fighting, or that Russia and Ukraine are fighting, or that the Republicans and the Democrats are fighting, or this group and that group. Hey, they are fulfilling their life's purpose that is showing us who aren't fighting, hopefully, that there is another way. And we are going to, in a manner of speaking, be the light bearers on behalf of the universe to say, hey, this is the 21st century. We don't play this way anymore. I'm not going to play that way anymore. And the thing is that what we have to realize, for example, Jesus spoke of how, you talk about sinning and you're committing sin with your body. Well, hey, you commit sin in your mind too. Are you fighting in your own mind and your own heart? Well, then you need to let that go. And then over time, I hope and pray that these people will physically stop fighting each other, because we are all connected. We're all being affected and affect one another. As you said earlier, we are all connected. Karuna is my guest here on the program, and the website lightonkundalini.com. That's light, lightonkundalini.com. We will be linked to that website, and we hope that you will continue following us here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Karuna is my guest here on the program. And you have been studying a lot of these different modalities and so forth. As I said earlier, my metaphysical primer is Autobiography of a Yogi, which is started reading that when I was 17, and probably have read it 100 times or more over the course of the last. I'm not even going to do the math. I'm 64 now. You do the math. Anyway, but I've also been introduced to so many other philosophies around the world. The one that I stayed away from for the longest time, until I had my DNA checked, was Native Americans. And the reason why I said until I had my DNA checked was because I found out
Native American.
I am, and what's interesting, it's not just Native North, Central, it's South, it's up and down the whole continent, in addition to being 1% Jewish.
Oh, good.
And then there was a further deeper dive into the DNA where now I have a connection to Africa.
Oh, of course we all do.
Well, and it's like, well, and we were talking about that. It says, well, the science has already proven that Africa, and I don't know exactly where, but it was somewhere in Africa, that is the seat of the human race. That is, they even say that is where even the mythical, if you will, Garden of Eden is. although they haven't found it, which I hope they don't in one sense, let's leave it a wonderful story. But what it says to me is that through my DNA alone, that information, it says, okay, I have that. And what's real perplexing is that my sisters, I don't know if my brother has had his tested. I know my mother has, but none of us has identical combinations of this lineage, which is just fascinating. It's like, wait a minute. My sisters and my brother, we all came from the same parents. How is it that our DNA is different? It's that different. That to me is just absolutely amazing to me.
You know, both of my brothers are in the NFL, right?
Did not know that. Ow.
Oh, the cat's out of the bag now.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. So let's figure out the DNA. So, how do I become this yogi? Being raised by, a dad that's a football coach, a couple
Mhm.
of them actually, and two brothers. And I'm named after, my name is Caroline Ashley. My name was Caroline Borio, and Boerio is Italian. And so I was named after J.C. Caroline. My father played football with J.C. Caroline, who's in Wikipedia, who only just recently passed. An amazing football player. And DNA. I mean, how does, somebody who, is hired as a fashion model in New York become such a coach later in her life as this Kundalini yoga, practitioner and coach. And fair enough to be raised with these really tough men around me,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And mother, Slovakian opera singer, and we just don't even know until we know a little more what our gifts are. And that's why I keep saying practice more union and yoking the union out of you, so you come to find that your DNA is Native American. So you understand the corn mother and the teepee, and that they raised their food from nothing, from the
Mhm.
earth, and
Mhm.
gave us so many humbling tools, and yet so strong to take the land. And I live up here on 150 acres, and I
Oh.
have just mitigated my dead trees to make open space. And the four-leggeds that are coming through, and the winged ones, and the plants and the trees, the aspens are just spreading. So when we get rid of the dead cells in our body, what happens? New ones replace them just like that. When we breathe a prana or we do a meditation based on something we're feeling we need to look at,
Mhm.
say it's the defender, and there's the soldier, the ombudsman, the chameleon. There's all these aspects to the defender or the teacher or the leader or the missionary. There's three aspects and projections. There's nine aspects, and there's three projections on each aspect. And those are the 81 facets in the mind is so complicated. So, of course, if we can get that information about who we truly are, and in this yogic practice, because it's not physical only, and it's not in a heated room, it's
Mhm.
in your room where you live, it's in your space that you can do a breath practice and a pranic practice. Pranayama is breath work, as you know, and you can sit in your own autobiography of a yogi for that 1 hour and take on that monk. Everything we've described and become that Reiki master, everything we've described in this beautiful conversation, by the way, P.S., is navel. It's navel, it's heart, it's core work, and it's available to everyone, even if they can only visualize it because they're healing and they're laying down in savasana for a long period of time or sitting in a chair. It doesn't have any form, Dr. D. It doesn't have form, it's formless.
Karuna is my guest. We're talking about Light on Kundalini, your lifestyle guide to yoga and awakening. And this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and it is just a thrill to be talking with Karuna about all these different subjects. I wanted to jump into one that you sort of allude to as we have been conversing here on this program since September of 2019. We have been promoting people getting involved, inviting them to spend time during, initially, the first year was the year of perfect vision, 2020. Mm-hmm. And then in 2021, it was the decade of perfect vision, 2020, the 2020s. Going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place, which, by the way, I only realized was the only place that I could go to get away from it all, so to speak, where no one else can go. I used to think there's got to be a place on the planet that I can go to and I can get away from everybody and just, so to speak, vegetate, if you will. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, if I can find it, then so can someone else. Until I realized, oh yeah, it's in there. But then spend the time listening to the still small voice and whatever other ancestors and angels and archangels, and the list goes on. I get I don't hear my father's voice, but I get impressions from him from the other side. And sometimes when I'm sort of self-motivating myself, words will come out and I go, where did that come from? Oh, thanks, Dad. I heard my sister's voice once following her passing saying, hey, Richard, everything's okay. It's okay. It's all good. Everything's okay.
Good.
And I have a dear friend who was my best friend for 53 years. We went to grade school, high school, and college together, and he passed away. And I have not shed a tear over his passing because every time I think about him, I laugh. Not because he was a funny looking guy, but because of how much fun we had together. And it makes me think of a quote I put in my book, Choices.
Yeah.
It basically says that this life is not to be lived to where when you get to the end, you have this pristine, beautiful body, that is in perfect health and so forth. No. You want to, at the end of your life, you want to go sliding in with a glass of champagne in one hand, a fistful of chocolate covered strawberries in the other, going, wow, what a ride.
Right.
And with he and I, we had our ups and downs, you bet, but we always remained friends and we did things together. And I remember the last time that I actually saw him and gave him a hug was at when I was in Phoenix for my eldest sister's memorial. And I was going to meet him when I went into town for my father's memorial a year later. But he was too busy, had work and so forth and so on. And then, of course, he passed on May 1st of last year. And what was interesting was that was also the same date back in 1998 when I was served with divorce papers from my first wife. And I joked at work saying, well, this gives a whole new meaning to the phrase Mayday, that distress thing,
Yeah.
But wow. It's amazing the relationships that we develop over the years. And yeah, I've had the tears over my father and over my sister. Not so much over my friend Doug, who I call Smokey, and I pay homage to them at the end of every one of my programs. But it's like I used to think, well, we could avoid all the pain. We really could. We could avoid all this pain and grieving if we would just stop connecting with one another and stop getting so dang close. Mm-hmm. I mean, because we hear on the news every day about someone who has died, somebody who's famous, or maybe not so much so famous, or in a conflict. Does that really move us to tears? Now, some people it does. Okay, I know that it does. But for the most part, it's, oh, another person died. People are dying all over the place all the time. You can go to the web, you can go to Google and go for the population count, and it's showing both the increase and the decrease of the population all at the same time. But are we moved? Does it touch us? Does it make us feel anything? And usually the answer is no, because we're not connected to that person directly, you know, in a relationship like what we have here. Uh, I've even thought about this, Karuna. I've been doing this program for, we're now into our 18th year, but I've been interviewing since 1980. And I don't know how many of the guests that I've had on this program or other programs who are no longer with us in the physical. Mm-hmm. I know some have passed because some of them were already elderly. One in particular was a gentleman out of Florida. His name was Jacques Fresco, who is a futurist, an architect, a visionary, who developed the Venus Project, having to do with
Venus, the love planet.
Yeah, and he designed this city. It was circular. And I mean, it had great attributes. So without going into a lot of detail, people can check it out by going to his website, venusproject.com. But he had a new way for us to live, which is what we're looking for, those new ways of living, because the old ways don't work. All you have to do is look around. Yeah. They're not working, but we can make our lives work. And I believe through this Kundalini energy, it's one of those modalities. What else have you incorporated beyond or in conjunction with Kundalini? You mentioned obviously that there's, I read Joy's Way. My mother suggested, and I read it, and I realized that, there are maybe hundreds of greater or lesser chakra points all over the body. It's almost as if you could see them. You have the chicken pox.
Yeah, that's why the seven chakras, the seven chakras are an idea of what a chakra is, but it has no correlation to the relationship. Yes, we use the seven chakras, and yes, the first chakra is soul, the second chakra negative mind, third chakra positive mind, fourth chakra heart, neutral, fifth chakra physical body, throat, sixth chakra, and seventh chakra. So the intuition and the aura. Okay, that's a guide, but that's like putting salt and pepper and not adding any other ingredient into your soup, right? So one of the things and thank you for sharing about all your guests and all your people. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you. And I want you to all contact me and let me know if I can serve you. One of the things that I really love is cooking. And so I think health and goes with well-being and happiness, and that the diet and the nutrition from the diet, from the garden up, can be super helpful, because when your digestive tract is alkaline and not acidic, you're not fighting your sleep patterns, you're resting super well. And then when you get up super thirsty, that you have a celery juice, you juice it yourself, you get yourself a juicer. It takes time. You have a lot of time. Believe it or not, it gives you more time when you start to take care of yourself. You find little pockets of time to do a little more self-care and self-love. And in this transitional time we're in, and letting go of this year, but not giving up what we learned from it. Mm-hmm. We learned so much from the past year, and going into this new year, we're going to have, we all need to come together again and connect. And we need to do that through reaching out and not being afraid to make a new friend, and really, oh, and not being afraid to get out of your box of ideas and get inspired by new ones and let the news go. Let it go, and yet figure it out how you can, start to put your own puzzle pieces back together again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have turned off all of not
Yeah,
only the news feeds on my phone. I love going to YouTube and watching little shorts, and I like watching the cartoons and that kind of thing.
yeah, nice.
But I turned off and I said, I'm not interested in any of this stuff and regarding the news and
Right.
so forth. My wife, on the other hand, she is always letting me know, oh, did you know there was an earthquake here or there? Did you know there was
I
this happening?
know.
And I let her do that because she needs to do that. That's what
Yes,
she needs to do.
yes, yes.
Because in September of 2016, I got sucked into the whole political thing. It took me 6 months to get unsucked,
Yeah.
but I found a method.
Oh,
I've shared
good.
this many times. It's also in my book. And basically, the first step is the hardest because I was told from within, you have to say this out loud. We know that you don't want to because you don't want to give this person credit for that title that you must give them, but you have to say it out loud, which I did. Thank you, teacher, for teaching me how not to be.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then the next step that I came to was, I forgive you, but more importantly, I forgive myself for allowing myself to be dragged into this quagmire.
Right.
Third one, coming from what has to be, you've got to come from as pure a heart as you can, and it is with a question. The question without judgment is, what is it that you're so afraid of that makes you behave this way? I'm not asking you to change. I just want to understand so that I can move on with my life. And the fourth one was given to me by one of my guests
Mm.
who said, these three words you have to utter from that same place of that question, non judgmental, because this person has every right to be here just like you. And
Mhm.
that is, I love you.
Mhm.
And it's some days that's easier, to go through than others. But that's why I've disconnected. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that energy coming in. And the other element of all of this, when we start getting ourselves wound up in these things, is that we have to remember that all of this is temporary. None of this is permanent. And yet, for example, the Kundalini energy, well, now that is, if you want to put it in this context, that's permanent. That's always been there long before we ever even existed. And it will be there long after we are gone in the physical.
Right. In lifetimes, we've gone through lifetimes in order to awaken Mata, Mother Kundalini. It's a sacred practice. It's not a physical yoga, it's a spiritual yoga that allows you to dive deep into who you are, and it will also give you the benefit of any doubt you might have. We don't live with doubt and guilt. I don't live with doubt and guilt anymore. I had to learn how not to live with guilt. And that just comes from the generations before us. And we just have to carry our own torch. We have to live and we have to listen to the youth. They are coming through. The children that are being born now are going to be evolved already. And all of us have been. We've just sort of put a little bit of blocks along the way in our way. And now we have to just, when there's a, chance just to break through them, understand them more deeply and study, educate ourselves. More and more maturity is called for this planet, and it is coming from the youth, and it's coming from the elders. I just taught Rianne Eisler yesterday. She's 93rd Chalice in the Blade, yogic practice, and I work with all age ranges, and we study. And you know what? They already come knowing.
Hmm.
It's just the invitation to open up the conversation. And for them, they know it, but they just need a confirmation to open it up. And that's what I'm here for, is to make this world a much more available place to have a joyful sense of humor, a
Mm.
deeper awakening, and a great sleep at night to rejuvenate, regenerate, reorganize, and deliver.
It's interesting that I came to the realization of something a few weeks ago that I shared on this program about the human progression when it comes to those differences
Mm,
between the physical human beings. Now, I'm not saying that we have crossed those hurdles, if you will, but at least we've talked about them, and we have certain things that we have done in that regard. And the first step, of course, was dealing with skin color. That was
mhm,
sort of the first one. Maybe you can go back further than that, but class and skin color and so forth. And we've dealt with that. We've talked about it,
mm.
and yes, it's still on the table, but I don't think it's quite as fierce as it once was. Then we moved into the differences between the male and the female, and we went through that process into the 1900s, where women finally got the right to vote. Prior to that, blacks and non-whites got the right to vote, and so forth. Then we moved into a new era several decades later, where we're dealing with this whole issue of love and relationships, and opposite sex and same sex relationships, which have been around as long as human beings have been on the planet, but we finally started talking about them.
Mhm.
And now here we are talking about this whole subject matter surrounding what the subject, this is the way it's phrased, of the transgender conversation. And from what you just said, all of those elements, though many people, they take it personally because they may be a part of whatever that group happens to be, they are all nothing more than distractions. I'm not saying they're not important, but they're distractions keeping us from the core of what it is that we're here to be all about. I can't stand conflict. I'm not even talking about the conflicts around the world. I'm talking about my own life.
Mhm.
Uh, I, I was challenged once in a relationship where this person says, "Well, why don't you want you don't want to fight for me?" I said, "It's not about fighting for you. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to
Mhm.
participate. I don't want that energy." Um, and this other aspect of personal responsibility. It's all tied in. It's all part of the same thing. I'm 100% responsible for where I am today. In my book Choices, I talk about how the choices that I have made over my lifetime have brought me right here, right now, talking with you on this program, Karuna,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
same thing with you. And now it may sound kind of strange, but even those choices that we made as children have brought us right here because of sort of the cascade effect or the domino effect.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's a divine plan here.
Yeah.
When people ask me, what are you going to do on your retreat next week? What's the plan? I laugh so much with them. I'm like, I have no clue who's coming. I have a clue. I get it, but I will design it when I see the human being with me,
Yeah.
with him, with her. And, everybody is perfect just
Yes.
as they are. And everybody is seen and loved and heard. Do you hear me out there? I tell you, you are so bountiful, beautiful, blissful. It just curls my hair even more. I mean, and you can't get curlier than this. I mean, you really can't. People go, where do you get that hair? I'm like, Dad. Italian, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just practical answer, right? But it's care. It's how you care, and it's how you love, and it's how you don't judge, and it's how, you be your own greatest friend. You be you. Whatever that is, we're all, I was saying earlier to, someone, I said, women have 11 moon centers, meaning those are energetic points. You talk about chakras, you probably haven't heard of moon centers. Well, we have 11. And guess what? They change every 2 hours. You change as a female, you change every 2 hours because of your moon centers located in this body, mind, spirit of yours. We have arc lines from ear to ear over the hairline. You have an arc line. It's a power point for ladies and gents. Across the chest, it's a power point. It's your aura. It's what makes you tick. And if you feel like switching yourselves up, switch yourself up. See what it's like. Feel without hesitation or or pulling back on what you want to create on your canvas. Allow yourself, don't think it's going to happen overnight. It doesn't happen. Nothing happens overnight that stays with you. But even Kundalini yoga, as you said, is permanent. No, it's continually changing you
Hmm.
because it's glandular. And when you do meditation specific that I give you to do specifically for something you're working on, that in 40 days changes a habit. 90 days restores and brings you a new habit. And 120 days of the same repetition every day, not at the same time, but the same amount of time in the same way, called japa, to repeat, that brings you to a new life, a new understanding of, and then you watch, because so many people say, ask me, Dr. D, about, is this going to come back in 6 months? Inevitably, everything always comes back in 6 months unless it's complete.
Mhm.
It's like a relationship. You're
Yeah.
going to find the same person over and over and over until you complete that with that person.
Yeah.
That's why we have to end relationships, not to end, but to keep moving, keep them compassionate and alive, and thank that person. Thank you for being in my life at that time. Thank you.
Well, I myself, as far as relationships go, I was married for 15 years to the first wife,
Oh,
and I have been with my present wife since March of 1998.
nice, nice.
Married, we actually been married twice. The first time was a ceremonial, a ceremony in Phoenix in
Oh,
2002, December. And then we made it official this past June 30th.
all right.
And
Nice numbers, 6 and 3.
well, I made the commitment back when my present wife Amrita and I joined together. I am never going through that previous experience again. I am going to do everything in my power
Absolutely, we
to make this
learn.
work.
We learn. And
Yeah.
you're in that nectar of Amrita.
Yes.
Please, yes, please. Thank the Lordy, Lord, Lord, Lord.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yes.
Thank you, Amrita. I'm with you. I'm so divine feminine with that nectar and understand the blessings of relationships. And as Rianne Eisler and I were discussing, the importance now of partnership
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
all we're doing, how we found each other, how you found me today to ask me to come onto your beautiful platform, audience, to share. Yesterday had a book launch. Please go to Light on Light and
Mm-hmm.
see the book launch video there. You'll see my best friends from The one who sent me to Paris and the one who took care of me in Paris were on yesterday with me celebrating this book.
Hmm.
And it was, and we all said it's just partnership and companionship and friendship and relationships. That's a big enough ship for us all to get on, right? Right?
Absolutely.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God, I've so much enjoyed being with you.
Absolutely. Same here. And just as a reminder, folks, we are talking with co-founder of Light on Light Publications and Media, Karuna, and we are talking with her here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host of Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Karuna, and Karuna, I want to thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here to, in essence, to change the world for the better for everyone. It is possible. I'm not talking about a utopia here. It is possible that we can change the world. And we've been doing that over the centuries. But now we are beginning to realize that we have the power to change it in such a way that really and truly makes a difference. I mean, I am grateful for all of the entities that are out there that are making themselves available to guide us and instruct us and so forth. But I'd like to get beyond that to living a life that is not not a what's the what is the not just surviving,
Mm,
thriving,
mm,
thriving, and we can do it
mm.
absolutely. And I'm glad you're a part of what we're doing here.
Thank you so much to all of you out there. I bow to you. I honor you. I ask you to honor yourselves and to really sit as Dr. D said, listen, listen to in your space. Find yourself, hear yourself, and share your story. And write this book with me. This book, Light on Kundalini, was asked for me to share my story. And it just, is a miracle to publish it. It took 5 years, and there's no timelines anymore, by the way. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, just keep journaling every morning, keep practicing, and come to Light on Kundalini and let me know who you are and introduce yourself and share your story. I put out a newsletter every Sunday, and I want you to share your story in my newsletter with me. So they can sign up for that newsletter, Dr. D, on lightonkundalini.com. It's a pop-up window. They can sign up and connect. We just connect. That's all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have three final questions that I want to ask you before we wrap up here. And I will do that in just a moment. But I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. We also have podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM. We're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope you'll subscribe as well as click notification. And I want you to know that Choices, 5 Steps for Life, is available at Amazon.com. The Audible is coming. Paperback, hardcover, and Kindle are currently available. And we also ask that if you can help us out financially, we would be gratefully appreciative. We have a PayPal account. It's there for your security as well as ours. We also have links to both Amazon.com and PayPal.com on the homepage at richarddugan.com to make it simple for you, right there near the top of the page. And as I mentioned earlier, we also ask that you join us and participate in this decade of perfect vision, which we are nearly halfway through, if you can believe that, folks. And we ask that you take some time to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place that no one else can get to, and listen to not just that still small voice, but all of the voices of your ancestors and the angels, archangels, and whatever other groups that are there to assist and support and encourage you. So we hope that you will do that. To our final three questions, to our very special guest, we ask number one, who is Karuna.
Compassion.
What is it that gets you up in the morning?
Sadhana.
And finally, what was your best day?
Today.
Well, Karuna, I will again thank you so much. I encourage people to go to lightonkundalini.com, which we will be linked to, and get a copy of Light on Kundalini, your lifestyle guide to yoga and awakening. And once again, we are so grateful that you have joined us, and we hope to have you back again to continue this conversation. And I make that invitation to pretty much every guest because I never like to end these conversations, but you know what? We all have those things that we need to attend to, and you do, and I do, and we'll get back together again, maybe in the new year.
I would love that because I have another book coming out to share with you, Dr. D, and that's a companion manual, and it's in color, and it's beautiful. And Light on Kundalini is going to produce it and publish it with Light on Light. So that's another little gem I can leave with you here today, and we can talk about that one in the new year. It'll be fun.
That'll be terrific.
I really enjoyed being here.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this conversation.
as did I. And once again, I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Hey, Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.
Me taco yase.